welcome to the Next Level Live. Got a special guest with us today, Amela Smailbegovic.
Perfect.
I got it right?
You got it right.
Perfect.
You got it right.
It's almost like Dean Pavlich.
Almost like Dean Pavlich that introduces himself as Dean Pavlich to you.
Yep. We're gonna take care of that soon. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about sales, Next Level. And you, Amela, you're over 400,000 for the year, Hall of Fame already. It's June. And we were just talking before we hit record, and we're talking about the first kind of few minutes, first 5 minutes, if you will, of the appointment.
Most vital. Mm-hmm.
Most vital, most important, as far as tone and just really, especially with everything we do now, a lot of telesales, a lot of Zoom stuff.
Yes.
It's a little different than going in the home. You have a little more leeway when you're face-to-face, right? Mm-hmm. You could screw up the first 2 or 3 minutes and work your way back.
Correct.
But Zoom, you hit that red button, it's over.
That's it.
Right? Mm-hmm. Same thing on telesales. Your first few minutes, if you're not, you don't have it down right, you don't have them, they could just hang up the phone. Right? So talk to me a little bit about why that's so important and what do you do in those first 5 minutes to make sure that, you're going to be in the best position to help this family.
Very good question. And what I've noticed, because I come from a face-to-face, right? Okay. Is you really have to be on 10 times more on Zoom, right? And on phones. I've also shared, with other agents that, if you do have dialers, if you do people that we do as well, right? Yeah. Virtual assistants, people that you do not want to do that on the new leads, right? Those fresh ones that you get, only you get to touch that because you are the only one that can make the settings so unique and capture that client within that first 30 seconds than no one else can. Right. So in your head, you really have to think of, how am I different than everyone else, right? And what I've always done when I've called them, right, and I do my introduction correctly later, where I'm calling from, who I am, but I always speak to them as if they're my friend. So when I pick up that phone, I'm like, hey, John, how you been? How's your day? I'm so sorry it took a few days for me to call back. It really throws people off because if someone did that to me, I always put myself in the other position. How would I react, right? I would never hang up. I would keep that person on the phone for a minute or two till I figure out where I knew them from. Right. And that's essentially what they're doing. So what you've done, you just bought yourself the time, first of all, to maybe make them smile, to maybe have a brief little connection, and to get them in enough to where you have a leeway, to where they're not busy or not at work. Right.
Got it. So tone is huge. Right.
Tone is huge. I'm a full-blown actress when I get on the phone.
Well, you say different than most people. Because our clients, they're not just filling out insurance leads. They're filling out a lot of stuff, right? And they're used to being called by the telemarketer, right?
Of course.
Hi, Mr. Jones, would you have a few minutes today? And they just hang up.
That's it.
Because it sounds like you said, everyone else that's trying to sell something.
Exactly.
When you're saying that, it brings me back to, 15 years ago selling in home, booking appointments. It was the same thing. Those first few seconds on that phone.
That's where you sell them.
That's where it is. And it was the same deal. It was always, hey, Mike. And they're like, not, can I speak to Mike? Is this Mike? Yep. If the lead says Mike and a guy answers the phone, I'm going to assume it's him. Yep. 9 times out of 10, I'm right. Every once in a while, they go, no, this ain't Mike. This is John. Let me go grab him. But I'm sounding like, and then like you said, we always would say we're getting back to you. You said that. Sorry, it took me a few days to get back to you because they initiated content. They filled something out, right?
And if not, let's say they didn't, right? I'm always assuming the sale.
Yes.
It's always yes for me.
Yeah.
So, and I never ask, so, did you guys, I'm assuming it as if it happened.
Right.
And if they want to tell me different, then I'm going to be shocked.
Sure.
Yep. So I wanted, to help you with that cash value generational wealth policy that I didn't, Mike, what do you mean? Like full-blown actress. And it really catches people by such a surprise, or you capture them in a way where they really don't want to hang up. Right. Because who else are they talking to in the day that's going to be more entertaining or funnier than me? Honestly, humbly.
Right.
But it is true. Yeah. I bring some light to their day. Like, people are like, oh, you want to, I'm like, of course we're going to be correct by the client. Of course, anything that we can sell them is a correct product. Just because in our head we think that it should be min-max. No, death benefits are important to some people. Sure. Every product that we have, if it's there by carrier to sell, is a correct product, right? We're going to explain it well. But at the same time, you have to understand that people are always buying you, and I've seen this in my industry of 15 years. Every time that owner comes back, they have no idea what they bought. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they own. They don't even know the maintenance. Yep. Just like when you ask these people, oh, you already have insurance. Who do you have it with? No clue. Right. They can't tell you if it's term. They can't tell you if it. I'll name the companies. I'm like, hey, is it with Transamerica? Mm-hmm. NLG? Maybe that ain't. But you know what they will remember? They always remember me.
Absolutely.
And they will literally say, man, it was that Croatian girl with that dog that I always. Like, I would have my reps from years before. They're like, the family's asking for him. I'm like, no, I don't want to see. I'd be like hiding in the back. They're like, no, the girl with the big nails and the lashes, they're asking. That's what they remember because it's energy. Like you said, it's an energy sale.
Yep, absolutely. How many times I get a call of like a past client because I haven't sold in years. Right. And we're trying to figure out what company the policy's with. They just go, I know I bought it from you. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, but I'm not an insurance company. I'm just the guy.
Right. You're
like, I will pull up your bank statement and find out. Like, that's usually what we have to, because it's been years. Right. But to your point, they remember the agent. Mm-hmm. That's how you know you have a good agent when, like, we get calls all the time here, right? And they go, oh, I bought my policy, through so-and-so. They remember the name, but not the carrier, not the company. Half the time, they don't even know what they bought, but they remember who it was. Because at the end of the day, we're a lead-based sale. Mm-hmm. So most of the sales done already when the client filled out that form.
Right.
The second part of that is them buying you and then you fitting into their budget.
Exactly.
The need for life, they've already sold themselves on needing life insurance when they initiated content. But to your point, assume that you have to remember that.
Yep.
It's easy to forget because sometimes a client fills out a form. Mm-hmm. A week or two goes by, a few days. Yeah. And then when you call them, they may say things like, I'm all set. I already got that taken care of. Yep. I'm not interested. Mm-hmm. You hear that, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do when you hear those types of objections early on?
So I have a whole cover of objections, right? Okay. Here's also a trick that I've told people. So in the first 5 minutes, what I do, I go heavy into tie downs, right? Yep. Second, I give them all of their objections before they can give it to me. Okay. So you got to get those objections up front because what happens, just like in this generation mimics what they're doing in sales, right? Why is everybody in these situationships? Because no one sits there and asks, hey, what are we? Are we together? Are we the same thing? You're on phone with Mary from Georgia for an hour and a half hoping you get a sale, because she's she's just sweet and she's bored and you're thinking you're building No, ask her up front. Hey, if I could get you $100, is this like, you know what I mean? You got to treat life like you treat sales. Right. And I want to get all those objections up front so I know so I can work against them, right? Because what's going to happen, they're going to hit you one way or another. Right. It's just going to be too. So, and I position it up front. I do a lot of my tie downs. If I could, would you? Now do you see? Let me share, right? And then I ask them, besides affordability, is there anything else that would stop you? Mm-hmm. Well, my wife's not here. Okay, wonderful. So let me ask you, if you could get something that could protect your wife, and it would not cut in any other part of her life, and it would be something that she would be happy with, is there any reason she would say no? And then I go into those till I cut that objection, and then I'll go a step further. Yeah. Just make sure that objection is out the way, right?
Got it.
Oh, well, I don't have the money right now. Well, I guess you're one of the few people that really can't afford not to have it.
Right. So
besides the money, so if we can get you covered and it's something that you want, what if I can push it out a couple of weeks? Would that help? So I'm killing those right away.
Got it.
And I also make a statement. There's two objections that always come up, right? What is it? It's not the spouse. Oh, think about it. Right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Most common one, right?
Yeah. Yep. Think about it. Or let me ask my husband or wife or whatnot. I give that to them right away when I do my tie downs. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now do you see why policy that gives you 6 to 8% of tax-free money, where you don't have additional fees, where you're also getting life insurance with, right? Now do you see that because there is no downfall, no one ever tells me they have to think about it?
Right.
Matter of fact, no one even tells me they have to ask their spouse. What is there to ask their spouse about?
Correct.
Right? And I'll push them into the objections just to make sure we're good.
Yeah. And I was always taught, this is from Sean, remove the objection.
Right away.
The wrong way of thinking if you're a brand new agent is, I need all these rebuttals. Like, what do I say when I get objections? The goal is not to get objections. The goal is to remove them.
I give it to them and remove it. Yeah. Yep.
I mean, little things like, hey, a couple things we're going to make sure today. One, we're going to make sure that, first of all, you qualify. We're going to find something that you actually qualify for. The second piece is we're going to make sure it fits your budget. Needs and budget are two things we're going to make sure that this policy fits. If we did that today, then why would you ever say no? But you have to lay that out. I feel like sometimes with new agents, they're afraid to tackle the objections beforehand because they feel like, well, I'm going to bring out the objection. I just want to avoid it. You can't avoid it.
It's the avoidance. It's the generation. They're avoiding everything. It's the avoidance of commitment, of tie downs. No, you got to hit those on.
Yeah. You mentioned two things, objections and tie downs. What are some of your tie downs?
I do them even in real life.
Okay.
Without noticing, because I'm so used to it. If I could, would you, obviously is the most common one, right?
Yep.
But I also will, say, so, with the X, Y, and Z now, do you see why 90% of the people go for this policy versus, okay. Now, can I share with you also, I'm very careful on my wording. In sales, and that goes in with tie downs, I do not use indefinite words. There's no hopefully, there's no God willing, there's not possibly, there's no maybe. I know, I guarantee, I can assure.
Right.
That's very important. I also don't tell people anything. I share. Can I share with you? It's such a simple word, but it does a world of difference to people.
Right.
When these people are already used to being talked down to or always dealing with authority. Like when you're sharing something with someone, you're now a team.
Right.
There's no I.
Yeah.
And I never. And people will say this without thinking about it. They're not. Well, I can show you how a term. No. I always say, well, maybe you and I can look at. It's always you and I. It's always us. It's always, and I'm always like, all right, let me see if I can do this for us.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is tie downs too that people don't realize. Just even statements, So, hey, if I can do this for us, let me just do it today. Why wait till tomorrow? Are you okay with that? Stuff like that. And I just do it constantly. But I'll use a life example that, maybe will relate to people. It happens in real life too, right? Imagine if you're, tired on a Friday night, your friends want you to go out, right? Like, hey, do you want to go? You're already in your pajamas. You're not going anywhere. You'd be like, maybe, right? You're not. But imagine if that same person said, hey, if I could pick you up at 7:30, would you grab a bite with me at Eddie V's? Sure.
Right.
Who would say no to that?
Right.
It's the same thing, but a completely different result.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm constantly leading the client. And then I always tell them, I'm like, this policy literally has no downfall. Matter of fact, name one downfall. Because I'd like to know where I can put my money that's 100% bulletproof against the market. Let me know. I'd love to. Right? I don't have kids. I'm not married. I'm wondering where my money can earn because I play the market, but that's a gamble. I can go to the casino. That's a gamble.
Sure.
I can lock it up in a CD, right? I have some, right, with Barclays, but what's that, 5-7 years locked up at 3.5? So please let me know, because if I were you, I'd ask how many of these I can get. Matter of fact, I'd probably play the lottery after, if you do get approved. And I'm very bold with people sometimes, and people are scared to go that route, but you have to understand, to be that bold with people and to say whatever you want to say, you got to earn your right.
Sure.
I earn my right with them very quickly. I establish very factual things. I'm straightforward. I use a lot of baby negatives. Baby negatives are important, and people aren't using them, and that kills them.
What's a baby negative?
Baby negative. So people will ask, well, yeah, I saw this online. I can pull out, 30,000 from it. What we tend to do in sales, we tend to defend. I never come from it. I'm always in offense, right? And baby negatives come with that. Just so I'll give you an example with that one. And I always say, let me stop you right there. I said, this is life insurance. This is no magic policy, okay? I want you to think that you can pay me $100 a month and you're going to pull out 10 grand because it's earning the 6 to 7% on that, right? Now, if you need $30K next year for it, go get a bank loan.
Right.
But like that. Whether someone be like, well, if we structured it, and the more you do that, the more they're going to have to think about it because they're looking for loopholes.
Yep.
Give it to them. Give them the baby negative. They're like, oh, okay, well, yeah. Yeah, so I want to make sure that Now, can you get that 30K probably by year 10? Sure. But in the beginning, it's going to be bad. Now, when it starts compounding, as years go, so I'm very straightforward with them like that. Or if people are like, oh, I'm talking to another agent. What does someone say? The first thing they go is defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Well, we're the leading.
Right. And well, I represent all these. I do right? all, like, okay, relax.
I'm like, great. Yeah. I'm like, matter of fact, Becky's probably going to be sweeter than me. I'm like, you probably should. Yeah. I'm like, Becky, I'm like, I'm going to give it to you straight as factual. I'm like, but the difference is I probably write more than, contribute to these carriers way more than Becky does. And the relationship I have with them, they're going to give me a lot more exceptions. And on top of that, I'm going to be able to keep an eye out on those policies because by the time you miss a payment, they're not going to have time to get back to you. Right. But I do because I don't let these policies lapse. But hey, you want to talk to Becky? No big deal. She's going to be sweeter. And then people are like, no, we'll say, okay, cool. You always have to come from a position of strength. In sales, that's huge. I don't double text me. Make them come to you. I don't sell. Right. I make people buy, because I know from my experience, I hate to be sold. Yeah. Let me buy. The second someone comes on me, it's like, ma'am, can we help you? No. Mm-hmm. No, I don't need help. I know exactly what I'm in the store for. Right. The best analogy I heard years ago, which really kind of got my mind right about our sales. Sean always said presumptive sales. It's like the doctor-patient analogy, mm-hmm. right? If you call your doctor today, you want to go in there for whatever reason, get checked out, you go on their terms. They go, hey, we have a 1 o'clock and a 3 o'clock available. Mm-hmm. No, but I want to come tomorrow at 11. Yeah, that's cool, but we have a 1 and a 3. Which one you want? Well, that's not going to work. All right, well, call us when it does. Correct. Because they have what you need. Mm-hmm. And it's the same concept here with sales. Same concept. With what we do. We have, I understand clients at times may be difficult. They may have their defenses up. But if we can take a step back and remember all the steps that they took for you to even have that appointment. Mm-hmm. Like, think about if it's a direct mail lead. Mm-hmm. How many people get a letter in the mail? It's unmarked. Mm-hmm. You don't know who the hell it's coming from. Yeah. How many people just throw it out? Most of them, right? Correct. So this individual opened up that piece of mail. Mm-hmm. They read it. Maybe it sat on their table. Mm-hmm. They filled it all out. How many people do you think fill them out but don't send them back? Right. A good chunk, right? They put it in the envelope. They brought it back to the mailbox. Mm-hmm. They sent it out. They put their correct phone number. Then they answered the phone when you called. They booked the appointment, and then they were there when you showed up. All those things happened, yet we still sometimes approach it as like, I got to convince them. I got to sell them. Dude, they already sold themselves. Mm-hmm. You just got to connect with them. Like I always stood by this. If I didn't help a family, there was one or two things that I did wrong. Mm-hmm. One, they didn't like or trust me. Right. Two, I didn't fit their budget. I wasn't listening right. I was trying to sell them something they couldn't afford, or I didn't sell the value enough. Mm-hmm. But both of those are on me. Right. None of it's on the client. Correct. No, 1,000%. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of things built into it. It's the presumptiveness. It's putting the client first. Because if you care too much about your own feelings, you're not going to say the stuff you're saying. Right. Because you could feel uncomfortable. You might be embarrassed. They may take it the wrong way. Yeah. But you have to not care about that and care more about helping that family. Then you're willing to get uncomfortable. You're willing to get them uncomfortable. 1,000%. Because no one makes the decisions when everyone's comfortable. Right. Mm-hmm. Calling up, like you said, being the actress. Interesting, yeah. That's not the most comfortable thing, right? And not even like, but it is just my style. It's always been my style. It's kind of like, I am who I am now, but when I get on the tennis court, that's my style of play, right? This is just my style, and that's how I am, and I'm animated as it gets, but it's funny because it does something to people, and I always say, like, on top of the life insurance that we sell them, and on top of protection, like, I did something to that person to change their day. Sure. To change their month. They'll remember that. That made them feel some type of way. That, that gave them a talk that, maybe they needed. And that's big for me. Like, I really do. Like, they'll tell me everything, right? After 10 minutes, like, that's how much, And not, but there is really something about, besides just the tie downs, but even in that, you're still doing tie downs because you really have to just condition your brain like that. Yep. And I have friends saying, like, Mel, stop closing me. Like, I'm like, oh, like, I don't think about it. Right. I do that with my parents. Hey, listen, if I go Monday, can you watch Ari? But then what I'm going to they're like, it's cool. Like, no time. Like, we will watch that. I'm like, okay, just making sure. And then also, because think about it, I always say very big component of sales that people don't understand. They're like, well, why did they stop on the app? Or why didn't they go forward on the app when they've done the steps? Let's say you kill the objections, eliminated the objections, tie downs.
Right.
This one is huge also. After you've tied them down to the money portion, you cannot go straight into the application or straight to the close, okay? Right. It is 101 of sales. It's called fight or flight, okay? Here's why. You've kept that person in the frontal lobe way too much. That is the part of our brain that is the decision-making, the analytical, the right. And I would see that with agents, right, in timeshare, especially analytical ones, like numbers, like 4 hours. The people are exhausted, right? If I come in and do that, they're like, no, we just need a minute, or right? So I have to come in with, oh my God, Susan, that girl, did you get that dress in Hawaii? Because my mom had the same. It sounds crazy, and people think I'm just out there talking to them about it is shifting them to the left brain completely, and you have to do that for you to close it without it being shaky, okay? So once I know that I've tied them down to the money, I have no objections, I know how my bank account, I know exactly what they're right, we're good. We're going to all the way to the left brain. And we're going to stay in there a good 5, 10, some people need 20. Yeah. Till they are completely out of this. Because this will be the fight or flight. Right. Whether you've done all, it'll be, just give me a minute, give me a day, right? So 10 minutes later, they joke around it at Insurance Elevated. I would always say, do you like smooth or crunchy peanut butter? People are like, wait, what? Like, out of nowhere. Because I was just wondering, my niece they were doing the survey at the school, like, right? Then they start talking about their niece. Sure. Then it's once they're fully into that is your sensory brain. Yeah. That's your feel, that's your senses, that's your happy, that's your emotion, right? And when they're fully there, it is seamless. Oh, yeah. Then I just shift back, and I'm literally like, you know what? I could talk to you forever. What is your date of birth? Let me finish this app for us. Not one objection. Right. But you have to follow the human psyche of the whole sale. Otherwise, what's going to happen? You're like, well, I did all the tie downs. I got all the objections out. And then, they didn't want to give me their account number. Right. How many times that happened? Yeah. Or they didn't want to give me their social, right? By then, they're sending me their social and voided checks in my text. Yep. Hey, you know what? I'll just text you. It's easier. Okay, great. Right. So there's a huge psychology, and I study this a lot. I'm a philosophy major too. Okay. So I did a lot of sociology, a lot of, niche, like all that. Like there's a lot, and it's really all tied into sales. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's an emotional sale. It's about making that connection, and that rapport. I feel like you can build throughout your appointment. Like, it blows my mind when you get these people, they go, well, I do my intro, then I do 10 minutes of rapport, then I do this. Like, it's, dude, just forget about all that. Just build a connection. Yeah. A lot of times my rapport was built after the sale was made. Yeah. I may stay there for another 5-10 minutes. That's just me a lot of talking times. To them. And then they'll call the next day. And yes. Like, yeah. That's me a lot of times. Yep. But you have to. I feel like you have to be genuine. You cannot fake that. 1,000%. Like, I actually am interested in people. People ask me all the time, "What do you miss? Do you miss being out in the field?" I'm like, part of it. Yeah. I'm not gonna. I don't miss the grind, the day in and day out. I did that for 10 years, but I miss this part, sitting down. Every hour or so, I'm going to meet someone brand new. And to your point, they're going to tell you a lot of stuff. Some stuff maybe you didn't want to know, but I miss that connecting with people, That's so true. And, when I say, like, you're an actress and we're all like, that just means you're animated, you're charismatic, sure. You got to go. But it's just like that. Like, none of it is faked. No. Even when I am literally talking to them about peanut butter, like, I'm thinking that. Or, guy the other day said, "Are you eating again?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my Crunch Bar. I like my Crunch Bar." He's like, "Yeah, because you were doing that a lot." Like, it's right. But none of that is, I just genuinely like people. I'm the same way, and they do make me laugh. And I'll talk to them about Lil Wayne if I want, or whatever else, something professional. I do really like that because you don't get a lot of that. No. I'm a loner, like a lot of people don't. They're like, no, you're always. I'm like, no, I'm a huge loner. I've never lived with anyone. I live by myself. I need a lot of alone time and a lot of me time because it's very draining. It takes a lot of energy because I genuinely am interested and genuinely care in anyone that I encounter, even, my agents. Like, I care. If someone's having a bad day, I'm like, hey, talk to me. Like, let's talk. So that really, I'm an empath, that drains me.
Yep.
And a lot of times people are like, oh, you go from, loving someone today. I'm like, it's not that. It just got to a point where it drained my energy to where I had to be good for everyone else. So I do a lot of reset,
Yeah.
You have to, in sales, you have to do a lot of reset, meaning you can be on, and then, party, then on, and it's going to break somewhere.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I'll always take my, Saturdays and Sundays. I still work. I'll still do, but I take a lot of time during those days.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming up doing this.
Thank you. This is great.
Yes, and I cannot stress how important those first few minutes are. Whether you're telesales, Zoom, in whatever you're doing, that initial point of contact is huge. So it's like you could be, losing it from the get go, and you're thinking it's something else. It may be something as simple as, are you starting off strong enough? Are you connecting right off the bat? Those first few minutes are huge.
Huge. Just think in your head, if someone was to call you, what would make you stay on the phone?
Exactly.
What would be so different that person does, and then just do that.
Yep, there you go. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. You know where to find us every week right here on The Next Level. We'll see you next week.